What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me, as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this podcast your first listen for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Leave that 5-star review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. On today's episode, we're going to be diving into fantasy basketball. The season is almost upon us. I'm sure your drafts or your auctions have been scheduled over the next week or so. We're going to be getting into the best picks, guys to avoid, the best value picks. Before that, we're also going to be discussing a few little tidbits from preseason and whether things we're seeing are real or fake. Chris, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good, man. We actually have real basketball to watch. This is a little bit better than summer league by a little bit. And I think we'll talk about some maybe overreactions. But I like to call it, is this just preseason or is it a premonition? And let's just jump right into it. And I want to start exactly where I know you want to start. And it's Carl Anthony Towns. And what I want to bring up with him is just looking at the perimeter focal point that he's been and looking at how smooth the offense can at least project to look with him up there running a lot of DHO, running a lot of pick and roll. And one thing I noticed is just how much he's moving the ball. And for a Knicks team that was second in the league in DHO last year with Hartenstein, I think Karl Anthony Towns could potentially have his best year as a playmaker and have his career high in assists. Is that just a preseason or could that be a premonition?
Hmm. I want to say premonition, but I would lean towards preseason. But in saying that, even saying his best year as a playmaker, it wouldn't have to be anything like insane, really, from what we've seen throughout
He's
Towns'
never
career.
eclipsed 5
Yeah.
assists per game yet.
So like he could get very close to that. I guess the guys he's playing around and like the what like playing with Jalen Brunson, I think he's going to be in the best position to that, and that's going to be something that's demanded of him. But I would still maybe lean towards saying that it's just preseason. But I like where your head's at. I like what I'm seeing, and I like to believe that that could happen. But maybe I'd have to wait a few weeks into the season if we continue to see it as much.
Yeah, it's exciting to see, and I think we all know the good and bad of Karl Anthony Towns when he's given playmaking responsibilities a little too much. Sometimes he gets a little bit too crazy with the passes. Sometimes he's a little irresponsible with the ball. But in this situation, with the amount of talent around him, I'm curious to see how far he takes it. And we'll stay on the big side. And this has been a storyline for the whole summer, and it's continued to be so in the preseason. The Miami Heat, who everyone's counting out, how many more tricks do they have left in the sleeve? Well, they have Bam Adebayo shooting threes, and he's continuing to shoot threes. And it looks like at least the Charlotte Hornets started to get a little worried about it. Started digging him up. The court started to open up. You got some more off-ball actions that are available when Bam's not right there under the rim. Is this something that's going to continue throughout the season? Is this a premonition or is this a preseason?
I think this is a premonition. I think
Yes,
we're gonna
sir.
see Bam shoot more threes this year. And I think a reason we're gonna see it is because I think the Miami Heat are almost looking for a reason to not extend Jimmy Butler and looking for a reason to push forward with Bam Adebayo as the lead offensive focal point. And adding the 3-point shot to his game really is a huge hole that's in his game. And if he can add that even at a level of like one make on like three and a half attempts a game, that would make such a big difference to this Miami Heat team and to Bam Adebayo as an offensive threat. So I think that's something we're going to see, and that's something that I think the Heat are going to push all year.
Yeah. And I think it'll be really exciting for the Heat, not just because of Bam shooting, but what does that open up for the other players? And I think it'll be cool to see if you get some more development from Jokic, if you get more development from Hawkes, if you get to see Terry Rozier finally like get back to the form he was when he was in Charlotte, how much of the space created by Bam actually shooting. And also, if you get minutes from Kel'el Ware, we got some sightings of Kel'el Ware and how athletic he looks on the floor, how big he looks, and also the fact that he's stretching the floor all the way to the top of the three. And that is something the Heat have not really had outside of Kevin Love. And it'll be exciting to see what they get to do with that. And for a season where you have questions about Jimmy Butler and his future there, and you have questions about it, the Heat even like being a playoff team this year. I mean, we do this every single season, And there's always an answer. And I think you have a couple early ones here now with their big shooting threes. I'm also calling Premonition on that. And I didn't want to go too crazy on these because there's so many little flashes we get. I'm a little excited about what Charlotte's doing, kind of seeing what they're doing with their offense, but I won't go too crazy there. We'll leave that all in the preseason. But one I just could not let go of is the team that everyone's forgetting about in the West. The star that was moved that nobody's talking about. And they're just a perfect match for each other for those exact reasons, is that they're always an underdog. They always got the chip on the shoulder. They're always given pats on the back. And it's the Sacramento Kings and DeMar DeRozan.
Okay.
The perfect pairing of stories, and I think the perfect pairing on the court. You see DeMar DeRozan take the court when they play the Warriors, and you see the offense, you see the DHO, you see already a kind of chemistry forming between him and Domantas Sabonis, and how they're working the pick and roll, how they're working the dribble handoff, and you're seeing plays where he's taking it, just getting a wide open shot mid range. Then the defense overreacts, and then DeMar already knows where to swing the pass. He's taking skip passes all the way to Keegan Murray. He's reading the DHO and he's back cutting the help defense already and getting an open bucket. And just a lot of easy looks for DeMar DeRozan. And this is Brian Premonition. I think the Sacramento Kings will be far and away the best offense in basketball. And DeMar DeRozan's going to have maybe not the career year, the borderline MVP year he had in Chicago in his first season, but he's going to be damn near close to it. And they're going to be the story of the NBA is DeMar DeRozan has another chapter of his successful career, and the Kings are back in the playoffs.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, I mean, offensively, yeah, of course, I'm buying into that 100%. I think this is the kind of move to get them right back to where they were 2 years ago when they were this high-flying dominant offense where they got into the playoffs originally. Then last year it dropped off a little bit, and obviously their defense was never going to keep them afloat. The defense is going to probably be an even bigger problem this year, which is the only thing that I think is going to hold them back. But you think about the teams that fell out from last year, you think maybe like the Clippers are one example who were a top 6 team last year that are likely going to be closer to the play-in this year. You think about Golden State, you think about the Lakers, you think they're still going to be, as much as everyone wants to believe they're going to be able to make a leap to get into a top 6 seed, they're probably going to be around the play-in again. And the Kings are going to be right in the mix there with them. And there is that potential for one of them to jump into the top 6, and that could be the Kings. But they do need to be the best offense in basketball to be able to do that because their defense just doesn't have it. They're going to have to work so hard defensively to stay in certain games and like to stay afloat with maybe the top 4 or 5 teams in the Western Conference because we know how tough the Western Conference is. But offensively, yeah, I'm totally buying in on that. Offensively, that flow is going to work perfectly. Fox not having to take every shot in the match, having a couple of options, especially late in games, that's definitely going to help them in a big way. So probably not ready to jump quite in on the bang with you, just worried about the defense. But offensively, yeah, I'm totally buying it.
Yeah, I think it's part of it is just gonna be preseason, but I think in terms of being, like you said, just that number one offense, I think it's there for them to come back and take it. And I think one part of defense as well is how good is your offense? How efficient are you? Are you running back after another missed three, or are you getting back into a set defense after your offense is scoring at an efficient rate? And you're not just scrambling to get back. And yes, the 3-point shooting, he doesn't answer that. Yes, the defense, it's not always going to be there. But I think just man, the level of offensive game that you're going to see from DeRozan is going to be something a little different this season because he's not had the playmaking hub like Sabonis around him. And I think that's the specific flash that I'm really digging in on from the preseason. That those backdoor cuts you see, the wide open shots he's getting from the mid range, that is going to be money. Like he hits that when he's got 2 defenders on him. He's hitting that even better when he's wide open, or even he's going to have a dump off pass to Sabonis. There's just going to be so much offense available to them, and that's not even talking about the continued improvement from the rest of the Kings. If Keegan Murray keeps taking a step forward, if De'Aaron Fox continues to get better as a shooter, there's a lot of potential for the offense to get so much better. And I think that's if you have the number one offense, like you're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. Like that's probably my equation there. That they would have to be the first team in NBA history to not be a playoff team if they were the number one offense.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. And they're not going to have the worst defense in the league either. They can they could be like in the low teens and they'll be fine then. It's just about
That would be a
staying in
win.
that.
If
Yeah.
they are in the if they're in the low team, if they're in the 18th worst, the 18th best defense in the league, and they're the number one offense, that's enough. And this isn't about championships. This is about getting back to the playoffs for the Sacramento Kings. But we all know that, building team to be successful and to go deep in the playoffs, you need balance. You need to value every aspect of the game, which is why we love fantasy basketball. And that's what we want to jump into here. We want to talk about category league specific. So if you are a points league kind of guy, won't exactly be for you. Maybe it will be. I think will generally be talking about, the value in players in the draft here. But I think a lot of the value we're gleaning from is from category leagues where we've been playing 3 years now, and it's been cool to kind of see like how you value a guy like Herb Jones, who in a points league not really going to be the kind of guy you go for. But the rankings here based on cat leagues, and where you want to start with this, Ronan? This will be a fun subject. I've been waiting for a while to talk about this.
Yeah, obviously we're getting excited now. We got our draft next week, and as I'm sure most people do. Yeah, so basically the category league we do, obviously it's the normal one. We got field goal percentage, free throw percentage, 3 pointers made, points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, and turnovers. So that's the normal one. If anyone's playing in any different way, that's kind of weird. But this is kind of the area we're focusing on for the players we're going to talk about here. Let's just start simple. We do an auction draft, of course. So we every year since obviously it began, we have a certain amount of keepers that we can take. So we're not going to get too much into that. So there's also going to be people that are drafting in the categories league. And if you have the number one pick, who are the guys that you are taking with that number one pick?
Let's start there, man, because that is something that has shocked me this season. I've never seen a rookie jump this fast into the number one pick. This probably hasn't happened since LeBron James, but every single expert ranking you look out there has Victor Wembanyama as the number one pick. Do we start that? Like, is there any reason that he should not be the number one pick? If you are drafting number one, if you haven't, I mean, the auction, this is why we don't talk about auctions. It's so difficult to project out like how much someone's going to go for it, especially every league's going to be, people are going to be aggressive here and there. But in terms of just like straight up who is the best player, it's hard not to argue for Wemby.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. When I saw him as the number one ranked on Yahoo, I was like, what? He's already at number one. I was expecting him maybe to be 5 or 6, but already at number one. I was stunned. I would say that I think if I am in a draft and someone takes Wemby with the number one pick, I feel like I'm feeling good about my position if I was in like the 3 or 4 spot. If someone's taking Wemby number one, I still think Jokic should be the number one pick.
Mm.
I still think there's a argument to be made that Jokic is more durable than Wemby. He's going to be more efficient. Yeah, he's not going to have the block numbers, but maybe Wemby eclipses him in points. But when Jokic puts up a near basically like a 27-point triple double, that's what he averages with greater efficiency than we're going to see from Wemby. Yeah, he maybe doesn't have the steals and blocks that Wembanyama does, but I think there's still reason to be a little bit cagey with Wemby. But obviously, the risk probably is worth the reward. But I maybe wouldn't go number one with him. I'd maybe look
What are you afraid of?
if I was the number 2 or 3 pick. Health and
The
efficiency.
health. The
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're gonna get a better field goal percentage from Jokic, and you're gonna get better free throw percentage. But I think that the allure is the 3-point shooting and the blocks and steals. You are not going to get those defensive numbers from anybody in the league while also getting 3-pointers.
That's true.
Like the that's what's so tantalizing about his talent. Not just like, I mean, in real life and in fantasy, the fact that he has a shot form, he has the looks, he has the confidence in shooting it. It's just about it going down. Is the shot going to fall this year? Is it going to fall next year? It's eventually going to fall. I think you talk to any expert out there, and nobody's doubting that 3-point percentage is eventually going to make it there, and he's eventually going to start making those shots. And with the volume that he's going to be taking, like this, he could be far and away the best he could be a top 5 player this year if those threes are falling. Like, that's the delta. That should being conservative. He's probably not going to be a top 10 player, but if the shots start falling this year, for a player that last year we said, nah, maybe he's a couple years away from being a guy that is really competitive in the league. He needs to get bigger. He needs to get used to the flow. No, he immediately arrived as an elite talent, as he should have been defensive player of the year. So what other surprises he can have for us this year if it's the 3-point shot and those start falling the way that we think it should in the future? If it happens now, I mean, this is the easiest number 1 pick that you could have in the draft possible.
Yeah, I mean, like it's tough to say you're gonna go wrong because even like going wrong, he's still gonna be at his worst a 20, 10, and 4 guy, and with like two, like maybe a steal and a half and like 4 blocks. So like I mean,
Yeah, the 4 being blocks,
like
like you don't know.
it's tough. It's tough to say you could go wrong by drafting Wembanyama because he's going to put up stats across the board, even if it's not as efficient as a Jokic. I think it's tough to say that he'd be a mistake at that position. The only thing you'd worry about is possibly injury, but that can literally happen to anyone. So yeah, I mean, if it's anything like NFL fantasy, maybe you'd be hoping you only have like the top a 5th or 6th pick because all the top picks that went in fantasy NFL this year have all been injured or really not delivered. So maybe it's a premonition for the year across fantasy sports across the board.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna go there because my my NFL fantasy that's already down the drain. That's already down the drain.
So your pick is
We
Wemby. I would say Jokic if we're going number 1 pick. That's what we're going to selling. Okay.
That's right. I think it's gonna split down there. I don't think that we're gonna see anyone taking Luka, Shea, Giannis. But I think those are the 2 clear-cut number 1s, and it's gonna be close. And honestly, depending on what you do, it's really going to kind of shape the rest of your roster. Because I mean, Victor Wembanyama, you have him on your roster. The advantage you have on defensive stats is crazy. Jokic, I mean, you could really form a team a lot easier around Jokic. So maybe that's something that people will take into account as well.
Well, you're like living in dream world with like this everyone needs to know Chris's genius last year in our auction draft where he got both Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama on the cheap, and now he has them as keepers for this year. So
Yeah.
he's in a great spot in our auction draft. But before we get into the best value, guys, I would say if you're picking top 6, this would also apply to say these are probably the guys worth probably spending $50 plus in an auction draft. Picking top 6, I'm thinking these are the only guys that should be in there. Jokic, Doncic, Wembanyama, Giannis, SGA, and Tatum. What do you think about that?
You said Halliburton?
No, I did not say Halliburton.
You did not say Halliburton.
You know what Halliburton's
That's
done to me over the last 2 years?
that's my question about that. Is Halliburton a 50 plus player? I mean, he is. Like you're gonna see people draft him, and maybe you just need to eliminate your bias because he did get hurt. He did you dirty last year.
2 years in a row.
But for a guy who's gonna lead the league in assists and be top 10 in 3-pointers made and be super efficient, is he not a guy that could be a $55 player if we're talking auction?
I thought about this. I did, but what he has done the last 2 years, he has started off like an absolute house on fire, and then he goes and gets injured for a month, and he comes back, and he's just a shadow of that guy.
Yeah.
So I think there is reasons to be wary about drafting high on Halliburton or spending high on Halliburton. He is the number 8 ranked player, which is a steal when you think of what he does before the injury. Like you think last year he was like the best point guard in the league, the start of the year, leading the league in assists, scoring 20 a game, hyper efficient. Then he gets the injury, he's gone for a month, and then he comes back and he's just a shadow of that guy. So he's a guy that you'd be looking to get later in the first round, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's auction drafts are so tough because like the first year we did it, it's so easy to want to go after your star and go big fish hunting, big game hunting. And like you're out of money in the first 2 rounds. And for anyone who's like a good, like conservative spender in their actual real life, like you're going to do great in an auction draft because anyone who has a little bit of money on them and just spends it, you're going to be the person that's out of money in like the second or third round because
This guy.
yeah, no, seriously, because I mean Shea, yeah, he's worth 50, but someone's gonna draft him for 70.
Mhm.
Luka's probably for your roster worth 50, 60. He's probably gonna go for 70. Could go for 80. So I usually try to stay away from these guys, but just in terms of like rankings, if this is your first round, like if you're gonna spend it, I would agree with that list.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's fair. I think these are all guys that are going to deliver stats across the board. You expect them to be healthy. I know people might be kind of sleeping on Giannis a little bit, but he played 73 games in the regular season last year. Just the only thing you're missing out with him is obviously 3-point percentage and free throw percentage is obviously going to be a killer there, and the turnovers aren't great either. But in terms of just numbers, like he's going to put up super high field goal percentage, potentially best in the league while averaging like 30, 12, and 6. So I mean, it's tough to really knock against that. He's still going to put up really big numbers for you, especially if you're getting him at like the 5 spot. That's an absolute steal. He's ranked 7 right now. I think that
I'd
could be
be
a low
ecstatic
ranking.
if I'm
Yeah.
seventh. I'd say in terms of like value, I would say that Giannis is the best value. And that if you're drafting top 10 and you're at the 7th pick and Giannis falls to you, that's you get a guy who's going to play at least 70 games in a season. You get a guy that's going to deliver all the stats like you said, and there's no question about it. There's no questions about what his season's going to look like. It's you can probably just predict it pretty easily. Whereas, I mean, I'll jump right into my worst. The guy I'm telling you, you got to avoid in the first round. You just got to stay away from Embiid, man. You got to stay away from him. I don't know if that's your pick. I feel like I telegraphed you there, but dude, this guy has just been injured every season, and it's the same way with Halliburton. Like you get just insane production. You're going to be winning on his back for the first 6, 7, 8, 9 games, and then he's going to get injured by the end of the season. And the other part of it too, this I hope in this season you have Paul George on the 76ers. He's going to get more rest time. He's going to take not a backseat, but he's going to maybe take it a little bit easier. But that also spells, is that going to give him enough games to be really a top 10 value player? I think there's just too many question marks with his health and what they're going to do to try to mitigate any risk to him throughout the season that I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I respect that. You got my two answers there. My best value pick for round one was Giannis. Also, I have him listed in there. And then of course, my thing with Embiid, obviously, Embiid is ranked number 5 on Yahoo right now. Anthony Davis is ranked number 6. They're two guys where I was like, if you can get them outside the top 6, I think they're worth the risk. But I
Mhm.
wouldn't draft them as top 6 players. But I get where you're coming from with Embiid. I think it's so fair to see his stats and know what he can produce and really be like, okay, yeah, if I can get him with like the 4 or 5 pick, man, I'm doing so well here. It's so fair to be fooled by that, but you got to take it with a pinch of salt because the dude he's always injured. I know we more so see it in the playoffs, which doesn't really matter for fantasy basketball, but it happens in the regular season too. There's going to be more rest time for him as well this year. I think that's a plan that they know they have. Like there's a chance he might only play 60 games, and that might not even be because of the injury. They're gonna rest him up as much as they possibly can. So I think that's a fair pick. Yeah, a guy to really avoid. I think it probably is fair, but I would say if I had like the 8th pick in the draft, I'd probably still take an Embiid if he's still there.
Yeah, if you're running at the bottom 10, and plus that's always if he has a killer couple weeks, then maybe you're trading him. Maybe you're trading him for a couple of guys who you know is going to be more longer lasting, better value like that way. But the idea of you not having your number one pick at the end of the season is just that's the terrifying part. And there's plenty of guys out there like Embiid that you're going to need to avoid for that reason. Moving into kind of like the early second round, let's talk about best, worst value, same way. And let's talk about the best. Let's get back to our positives. Who do you have here? Like best value, gonna definitely outplay his rank. If he falls to you, have to take him.
So I got an obvious one, and then I got a riskier one. Okay,
Okay,
so
too.
obvious one, Steph Curry. He is the number 13 ranked player right now.
Interesting. Okay.
he's going to have to put up so much offense this year in that Golden State team. Like, he is going to have to go full, what was it, like 2020 Steph Curry? What was the year where he just went absolutely insane when it was just basically just like him playing by himself with a lot of nobodies and Draymond Green? But he's probably going to, like, he could definitely average 30 points per game. He could be the scoring leader in the NBA this year. You know, you're going to get elite 3-point shooting percentage, 3-pointers made, elite free throw percentage, going to put up hopefully some decent assist numbers as well. Yeah, you're not going to really get the defensive numbers or the rebounds, but in terms of scoring, 3-pointers, free throws, Steph Curry is the best you can get.
And yeah, like in terms of a foundational piece to your team, like what your strategy is going to rely on. I mean, 3-point shooting, he's got you covered. Like so many games are won off the back of like how many threes did you hit that game? You're tied so close, and then you lose by 2 to a guy that has all the 3-point shooters. And I mean, Steph Curry at 13, what's around him? You got, I mean, Trae Young. Am I taking Trae Young or Steph Curry? I'm probably that one's tough. That's
Trae Young is technically ranked as like a first round guy. I guess most people are in 10 or 12 team leagues. So like Trae Young at number 10, he's technically ranked as a first round guy.
yeah, he's right there. If I'm, I guess if I'm choosing between the two, and I'm at 12, 13. Say I'm at 13. It's Trae Young or Steph Curry. Who are you taking?
Probably Trae Young.
Probably Trae. The assist numbers are there and the 3-pointers made. I think Trae is probably gonna have a bump from not having DeJounte there. You have a new look and fresh season for him. We'll see about that. But yeah, I mean that's still a guy that's got to be on your board. If he's at 13 and you're taking Steph Curry, like that is basically 2 players worth of 3-pointers made for every week that you got him starting.
Yeah, like they're gonna dominate in that area. That's it. That one's for sure. And then like my riskier guy, before we get to your guy, my riskier guy, LaMelo Ball.
LaMelo Ball, I knew it.
Yeah. Ranked at number 16 right now. If this guy can stay healthy, he can absolutely be the anchor of your team. This guy puts up serious numbers. He could easily put up like 25, 6 and 8, shoot well from 3, shoot well from the free throw line, put up really good steals numbers as well. He's honestly only played like 24 games last year, but he averaged 1.8 steals across those games. This is a guy who everyone is believing can have a rebirth year. This is the return of LaMelo Ball, and I want to buy into it, but of course, dude has no ankles, so it's tough to really commit to him.
Have you seen his ankle braces he's wearing in the preseason?
Oh man.
They're scary, man. It's
So
like
like
it's
that
Derrick
that
Rose level.
yeah, like that really worries me. That really scares me. But if you're willing to take the risk, LaMelo could be an absolute steal at his position.
Let me say this about LaMelo. The high and low for LaMelo is just insane for me because I look at his potential of like what he could put out stat wise, and with the steals, the 3-point shooting, the scoring, and if I don't think he's going to get to the line as much as you want him to for a top 10 player. But I think if he's healthy for the full year and what we saw out of him when he did play last season, that tail end, if that is who he's developing into, that's a top 10 fantasy player. Like he has top 10 fantasy potential just with his playmaking and everything he does. There's so much versatility there with the steal numbers that you could put up as well. And I think everybody just knows he's not going to get there because he's been injured every single season.
Yeah.
Every single season. We talk about, avoiding guys in the top 10 for that reason. I mean, your second pick is also really crucial. And I couldn't talk myself into like LaMelo being my second pick, even though that potential is there that he just vastly outplays his draft. I mean, if he gets drafted 20th and he ends up being the 10th best fantasy player, I'm not shocked. If he ends up being the 8th best, like that's probably best case scenario. And maybe that's like a keeper league dream where you draft him and you just keep him until he gets to the point that you think he's going to be at. But yeah, I'm just too scared of the injury risk.
That's so fair. So maybe we'll say if you can get him in the third round, maybe take the risk then. But yeah, maybe the second round is a bit too risky given
Yeah,
his
if I'm
obvious
getting him in
injury
the
history.
third round, I'm ecstatic because I know I'm swinging for the fences in the third round, and you can bounce back in the next round. Um, a guy that I'm really still high on, that if you can get at the beginning of the second round, if you're getting him in the middle of the like if he's fallen to you in the I'm sorry, the third round, if you're getting him at the middle of the third round, like you are just this is free money. Scotty Barnes,
Yes.
ranked 20th, and I think he's definitely gonna be a top 15 player this year in
Yeah.
fantasy terms. Maybe even approaching top 12, just given how he's going to contribute across the boards. I mean, there's only a handful of players who's going to put up assists, stocks, steals and blocks, rebounds, and score 20 points per game. And now his 3-point shot is coming around. I mean, guys, maybe he's going to be making three-pointers per year next year. I mean, this is a guy that I think is in real life NBA really poised to have a breakout year, and a guy who I think in terms of fantasy, like, does it all. You don't have to really worry about, specializing. Like, he's a guy who's going to give you stats in every single category, and as a 20th ranked player, I mean, who's really around him? I'd rather have him over, honestly, like a Devin Booker, over a Jalen Brunson, over a Dame Lillard, over a dare I say, Kevin Durant. Like, you're just going to get more out of Scotty Barnes in every single category. So I think even 20th is a little bit low. And if he starts sneaking down into 22, 23, 24, I'm scooping him up immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. I also had him on my list. Like last year, he had put up 20 points, 8 boards, 6 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.5 blocks, shooting 48, 34, and 78 from the field. You could easily see him doing like, if he did like 22, 7, and 8 this year, then he's
With two
same
and a half
stock.
stocks,
Yeah, same
that's
stock.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander level
Higher,
production.
like higher, probably a slightly higher percentage from the field and from three and from the free throw line. Like that's not beyond the realms of possibility of him. So yeah, I'm totally with you there. He could prove such a steal for anyone who's getting him mid to late second round. If you're getting him at that value, I think that's such a steal.
Yeah, you like literally like if his offensive leap comes this year, on top of what he's already given you from rebounding and the steals, blocks. If his offense comes around, the shooting starts to really take the turn that it showed last season. Like, that is an SGA level player.
Yeah.
So then we're talking like top 10. And yes, this is all like projecting best case scenario, but I don't think there's a floor beneath that for Scotty. We're talking about guys who are either going to continue to get better, or maybe he stays the same and that's still a good pick.
Yeah.
That's still a good pick at 20. But this is a guy who, I mean, hell, if he has his breakout year, then he all of a sudden becomes a top 12 level fantasy player.
Yeah, no, no, I had him on my list too. So yeah, I'm totally with you there. He could be prove a real steal and a real breakout fantasy player this year.
Who's the guy in the second round that you're looking at just like, no, can't do it, won't do it?
I got three guys here. Okay, so
Three guys. Okay.
first one's up is James Harden. I
Yes.
know he's a guy I've
Whoa.
been harping on
Whoa.
all year. I know I've been hyping
Listen,
him up big time, but he's
listen,
ranked number 12. No,
listen.
that's no, no. I was thinking if you're getting him late second round, maybe third round, I'm like maybe he's worth the risk there. But if you're taking him early second round or even first round, that's just crazy.
Ronnie, you were saying MVP level Harden. You were on the MVP level Harden like a month ago. You were on that train a month ago. You already off?
I was never on
You sold
MVP
your
level.
ticket?
I was on him being the
I
lead
think the word
scorer
MVP
and the
was
lead
used.
guy on his team. But I'm thinking this is a guy, don't get me wrong, he could average like 25 and 9 or something like that, but also he's going to be demanded to be on a higher level that he's 35 now. One injury, the injury could come. Harden has been fairly sustainable over the last few years, but
Yeah.
now he's going to be demanded more of. Maybe injuries start to come. So I think if you're getting him, if you're in the late second round or the early third round, I don't think it's the craziest pick in the world. But in terms of where his rank is, I would avoid him if you're definitely avoid him in the first round. Absolutely avoid him in the first round. But I guess maybe avoid in the early or mid second round as well.
Yeah, like, and these draft rankings are going to change over the next couple weeks as we see the ADP change. Right now, his rank is 12th. His ADP is 17.4. People are already kind of scared about picking him up right there, and I think that he's probably going to be closer to like an 18 and 10 guy. Like I think his assists are going to bounce all the way back up. He's going to be getting double doubles nightly, but the shooting efficiency, I just can't believe in this, and his inability to get to the rim. We've already talked about it. Like I just don't believe in him getting the rim. His free throw rate's going to continue to go down, and a miraculous return to like his volume 3-point shooting. That's the possibility with the amount of shots that he's going to have to take, and then maybe he's a 20 and 10 guy. Then you're arguing, okay, maybe he is a top 15. Maybe he is, but there's just too many question marks, and I just don't. I just can't I can't buy into the James Harden hype right now. I can't buy it. I got to see it, and by the time I see it, he'll already have been drafted to some other team because I'm not taking that risk, man.
Yeah,
He
no,
was
no,
also my guy. Yeah.
yeah, you're dead right. I also have Cat listed on here. He's currently ranked number 17.
Oh,
I want to believe in Cat. Obviously, a Knicks fan, I want to believe he's gonna do so much and be so great, but I'm a little bit worried about his points taking a bit of a hit. I'm a little bit worried about
yeah.
the overall fit he's gonna have in New York. But you could also make the argument that you could see his stocks level going up. You could see his rebounding level going up. I would just be a little bit hesitant where he's ranked. He's currently ranked number 17. If you're, I'd be saying if you're getting him, I wouldn't be drafting him early second round. I'd be looking at more late second round, early third round for a guy like Cat.
Yeah, dude, if Cat is falling to the third, you're scooping him up. I'd say I'm not taking him anything beyond anything before like the 25th pick.
Yeah.
So I mean, you still got guys like Fox out there. You still got guys. I mean, LeBron could still be on the board. I'm taking LeBron over Karl Anthony Towns
Yeah.
for
And
sure.
like someone like Sabonis even as well. He's another guy I would take
Yeah,
over, taking over him.
yeah. I'm taking Chet before I take Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, here's a question, and this is where things get interesting because you're trying to fill out your roster, and it's tough to get really efficient bigs sometimes. Ones especially that aren't going to tank your free throw percentage, and you're stuck between Alperen Şengün and Karl Anthony Towns. Who are you picking?
I'm probably going to take Şengün purely because Şengün has done right by me in the past.
Interesting. Okay, because I mean, Şengün's. I mean, he's going to shoot more efficiently. He's maybe not going to get as many. Maybe he will. We'll see what his role is ultimately going to be with Adams out there. But I think that's the only question mark for Şengün. I think Cat. I mean, I just hyped him up as having a absolute career year for his assists, but I think that I'm gonna buy into the system in New York. Honestly, just given what Cat's skill set is gonna be there, I think he could really flourish there. And I think maybe this is just right, but I'm not avoiding him. I'm picking him if he falls to me around the 17, 18 mark.
Okay, okay, that's fair. Last guy I have is De'Aaron Fox.
Avoid.
Avoid.
Avoid. That's crazy. Okay. I won't give up my draft strategy before we even draft, but I need to hear that.
I just think his scoring is going to take a plummet. I'm not sure if his assist numbers are going to get better. Are we really believing that 3-point shot is real? That's going to be there. Maybe it's a bit harsh to call avoid because he is only ranked 27, which isn't like that's obviously not crazy. But you think like I'd probably be looking at a few guys that are below him, like a Cade Cunningham or something like that. I'd probably take
Mm,
him over
mm.
over the Aaron Fox. Just the new fit, like DeRozan's gonna get more shots. They're gonna be moving the ball a lot more. We're gonna see Fox, I think we're gonna see his scoring take a hit without anything else really taking off to really make him worth it.
Here's an alternative way to look at it. De'Aaron Fox is going to be taking less DHO possessions with Sabonis. He's going to have less pick and roll possessions with Sabonis, and that's going to be allocated to DeMar DeRozan. And there's going to be times where Fox is playing off ball, and Fox has been pretty adamant about improving his 3-point shot and being a better off ball shooter. that is the level to Fox's game that, as it's developed, has been very interesting about how much better he can be as a player if his shot really did fully develop.
Well, we all
If
want
De'Aaron
that.
Fox is, yeah, if De'Aaron Fox is taking more threes instead of more driving opportunities, more less efficient pull-up jumpers, and his shot die becomes getting to the rim, getting to the line, and way more threes, it that tells me he's going to get even better. That I mean that's a possibility. I don't think he necessarily gets worse just because he takes less shots. I think he has an opportunity to grow his game and expand it by taking more off-ball threes from DeMar DeRozan, from Sabonis off of their action that they have. And the thing with Fox is knowing categories. In a points league, maybe just has less stats, but you're not going to find another guy who gets as many steals as him. I mean, he literally was tied with SGA for most assists in the league. You're not going to find a guy who gets as many steals and produces offensively like he does. You jump down, you're all the way to Alex Caruso, you're all the way to Suggs, Herb Jones, those kind of players who are fine players for just that, like specialists, defensive specialists. But for if you're really focusing on trying to get defensive stats, Darren Fox could be your guy.
That's fair. That's a fair comment. I would say there. You're kind of you've done a decent job there, kind of turning me around on maybe him being acceptable as
Yeah.
as your first pick in the third round or late or maybe even late in the second.
Yeah. Just forget this by next week, please. That's why we're doing this podcast, so that Ronan can know can get my draft strategy out of me before we get into next season.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly all his deepest darkest plans because Chris is going to be loaded with money because his two keepers are Chet Holmgren and Wembanyama, who I think he got both of them for like $30 or less last year, which is
Something like that.
especially
Something like
Wemby.
that.
That's just
Something like
insane.
that.
So yeah, that's he's in a good spot going into our draft. That's for sure. What about
Speaking of
sleepers?
sleepers, let me throw in a few here real quick because I feel like my sleepers are like outside the top 100. Like you're drafting like end of the rounds. Half the guys are in and out of the draft room. Maybe they're just watching TV. They already stopped, and everyone's just picking whoever they can. Those are my sleepers. I want to talk a little bit about like your mid rounds, mid to late rounds. Um, did you have any guys who were like I really like that value?
I didn't go too deep. Mine. The guys that I have. I was kind of like these guys could easily be second round picks. That's kind of my two keepers that are going to be this year. Paolo
Oh,
Banchero and Zion
yeah,
Williamson.
yep,
Paolo
yes. I
Banchero
had
at 39, Zion at 52. This is the year to believe in Zion. It's now or never. I'm locked in.
yeah.
This is the year to take the chance on Zion Williamson. He can deliver for you.
Here's my asterisk to that because I was really when I looked at Zion at 40 for Yahoo rankings, I was like, wow, that's low because I'm really high on Zion. I think a lot of people are, given what we saw from last year. I think it's what does the offense look like with DeJounte Murray there? And we've seen preseason, DeJounte Murray still a little bit off ball. He's still kind of playing off guard when Zion is running the show. So that's a good sign. How much of that is going to continue throughout the season? Is he really going to have the opportunity to get assists? Because that's really the only other stat, like field goal percentage, um, points, and assists. Because he's not really shown he's not really going to be a huge guy on the boards. Although he might have to be this season with the lack of
Apparently Herb Jones is going to play
center
center,
help.
so well, we'll see
That
what that
that
offers.
I love that. I love that. And I can't wait to see how that looks because I mean just him playing 1 through 5 defensively, that's going to be very interesting to see. But I had Zion kind of a question mark there. I had John Morant at 43. John
Yeah.
Morant at 43. Now, the 3-point shot has not been there. Even though his volume's gone up, his efficiency has gone down. We've not seen him put together a really good efficiency from there. But in terms of the assists, the points, and the field goal percentage, if he's just going to continue to just focus scoring inside the paint, 43 feels low.
Yeah.
43 feels low. When I'm thinking about a guy like Cade, who I'm excited about at 31, I think that's a very, very high value pick. I think he's going to have a great year. Banchero at 39, that's probably the like you nailed it on the head. I think Banchero is going to have a fantastic season. I think he's going to be way better than 39 by the end of the
Hmm.
season. But Ja 43, Is he going to be the 43rd best player at the end of the season? Is he really going to be the 43rd best player?
Yeah, like that's him. That's obviously his recent history. That's playing a big part in that rank. You gotta
Yeah.
say that for sure. I mean, just look what he did in those that small little tiny flash we saw last year.
Yes.
That alone was like a top 20 player. So
That's your second round pick.
like Jad
Yeah.
43, like nah, he's playing at minimum, I would say he's playing as a top 30 player. That's probably a minimum
Yes.
level for him this year.
If Ja falls to me at 40, that's I'm immediately
My precious
if
there,
he's at
eh?
like 35 and I'm not in someone and I need a point guard, I, I don't know if I'm reaching there, but I think he's gonna be a top 35 player. He's gonna be a top 30 player. 43 just feels too low.
Yeah.
Here's a question that's kind of going around. One of the most accurate tracking models says that Jalen Williams, so this is through CBS, they say that Jalen Williams is gonna be a bust at 33. They've great track record. Now, like, how does that just sit with you? That doesn't sit right with me. I'm a
No,
big
no,
Jalen
that
Williams
that that
guy.
feels wrong because I think
Had
like
him 2 years. Loved him.
outside my like fantasy head, I'm like Jalen Williams could be the guy that could be really like the unsung hero of this OKC Thunder team. But on the other hand, I get it because I guess there's only so many mouths to feed. There's only so many like guys on the floor to get boards, and maybe that's an area where we see him drop off just a little bit. But to say at 33 to say he's going to underperform, yeah, that feels wrong. But I kind of get it.
Yeah, the argument is how much is Alex Caruso going to take away from there?
Hmm.
And I don't buy that. I guess I'm not buying that Alex Caruso is going to eat up more of the usage. You're already losing Giddy. All of Giddy's playmaking is essentially going to go to Jalen Williams. Caruso is going to run some actions there, but I think Jalen Williams is a far superior playmaker. Caruso is a fine connecting piece. He's a fine, point guard at times, but he's not a guy that you're going to give the ball to over Jalen Williams. I just don't see it. I think he's a fine pick there, but I think that the models are predicting probably based on usage and perimeter shooting that maybe you're going to see a little bit more go to Caruso.
I guess it's
Nort,
like just the idea of like
specifically.
the lineups could get so funky in OKC. Like we could see Shea, Caruso, Williams, Hartenstein, Chet lineups. We could also see different lineups where there's no Caruso, where there's no Hartenstein. So I guess there's that idea of the different lineups we are going to consistently see throughout the year. Maybe that could be an area that hurts his value as well. I think I'd say that's probably playing a part there too.
Yeah. And I guess the question there too is if DeJounte Murray is there, if Bam and Adebayo are there, and around 33, are you taking Jalen? Bam is excited. We talked about the three. If you're getting two, dude, if you're getting two threes a game from Bam, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen this season. That'd be absurd. But then he just vaults into that. That's a big question people got to ask themselves. If you really believe the preseason hype, if that is a premonition, and Bam's hitting 1.5, 2 threes a game, he just vaulted himself into the top 20 easily, easily.
Yeah, the only reason that I'm never big on going for Bam Adebayo is his stocks numbers are low for a center.
Yeah, that's
That's
fair.
one area I don't like about drafting him. I would always look to get him as more of a. I would look him as my like last resort as I'm looking for my second center. If I go for like a top level center and then wait and hope he falls for me later on.
Yeah. Um, and I'm thinking about the 50 through 100, and I'm gonna throw some names at you here, and I'll just throw in a question for him. Do you think that Michael Porter Jr., who had a little bit of a down year last year, but played more games, almost played 82, played 81 games. Can you believe that? And this guy is talking about getting more shots this season and being more aggressive offensively. Do we think that if he gets closer to 4 threes per game, he's hitting around 20 points per game? Is that a possibility for him? Do we think Michael Porter Jr. can have a resurgence this season by shooting more, being more aggressive from three, and being a 20-point per game scorer?
Yeah, I buy that. They need him to be that, and I think he's
Now
going to
he's
improve. He can improve as a rebounder as well. They need him to get to that level. That's what
yeah,
they've effectively like, invested in him getting to that level. So yeah, I definitely I'm buying in on that. They need it.
So if you buy that at 82, at ranked 82, it's the eighth round. That's probably one of the best value picks I can see
Yeah.
in 50 through 100. I mean, that's a guy like if he's hitting that mark, he's a top 50 player. He's outplaying his rank by at least 30. Now, if he's the same guy, you're still getting the threes from him. You're still getting the rebounds. He's not a one-dimensional player. He's giving you two important categories there. But I'm interested in that. Here's another. I'll just give a name. Brandon Miller.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm
You buying a big year from
yeah.
Brandon Miller?
I'm buying the second year hype of Brandon Miller. Whether it's with LaMelo Ball or without, I think he's gonna have a big
Mm-hmm.
year.
Precise. I don't think it matters. I think he's gonna do. I think he's gonna be more efficient with Lamelo Ball there. There's gonna be less attention on him. He's gonna have more opportunities to shoot off ball, and he's the way that he started to shoot the rock at the end of the season last year, and the way that he's shooting in the preseason. Like he looks like money. Like he looks like he's really confident in his stroke from the outside, and I think that he can do anything. If Lamelo Ball is out, and we can kind of guarantee that, honestly, we're going to guarantee. I would bet on 20 games lost to LaMelo Ball this season, and that's not a knock, and it's nothing personal. But I just think that given his injury history, if he plays 60 games, that's a win for the Hornets.
Yeah.
Right now, in those 20 games, Brandon Miller's usage is going to skyrocket. We've seen that he's been able to do stuff on ball, and he's going to continue to get better there. There's guys like, and this is my worst pick. I'll pair him with the worst pick. Guys like Bradley Beal on the board at around 60. Like that, you can't do that. You can't do that. That is a do not pick, do not touch, do not look, do not think, do not even think about picking up my boy Brad Beal. I love him, but if you got Brandon Miller there, I mean, hell, you even got Zach. I would take Zach LaVine before I took Bradley Beal. Darius Garland, Bradley Beal is a do not even look at it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's different
One thing you
level.
got to remember, Bill, he's gonna get his shots, but remember, he is a third option. That's the big thing. He is a third option on a team with two of the top options in the entire NBA. He's playing behind them in terms of the pecking order, and also just the injury history as well as there. Even though he talks, yeah, he's gonna be healthy this year. They're gonna be the best team in the world this year, and blah 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 blah. But
I think he'll be out of
I
the
would
top
always
100.
think about that area where they come in the pecking order. That would be something where I would think of like, yeah, Brandon Miller above over Bradley Beal 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'll even keep going down the list. I'd take Mikal Bridges, who's ranked lower. I'd take Devin Vassell, who's ranked lower. It's going to give you pretty similar stuff. And I'll give my last name. If we're talking about value, like absolute value, we're really talking about how much are they going to outplay their stock? How much better are they going to get? Is there any player that has more of an opportunity to do that than Cam Thomas from the Brooklyn Nets, who's ranked 67th? His average draft position right now is like 71, 71.8. A guy who's going to take every shot when he's on the floor, and a guy who's had his fair share of 40-plus point games. How are we going to see him this season? If he's a 25 point per game scorer this season, I'm not surprised. Are you?
No, not at all. He's probably almost definitely going to be inefficient as hell. But in terms of where you can get him and the numbers that he could potentially put up, I think he could definitely outplay his rank. If you're getting him like the fifth round, I think that could end up being a steal. And if you're getting him later than that, then it's a definitely that's a slam. I would absolutely take that because
Yeah,
he's
I'm talking about late sixth round, like early seventh round, where he's pretty much projected around. Like if you've just been loading up on other categories and you've neglected any scoring, like boom, Cam Thomas, he's going to give you at least 20 a night. He's probably going to give you closer to 25, I think, this season.
yeah, and Brooklyn Nets is gonna go out there, yeah, just chuck. You go out there and have fun. We're trying to suck. So even if it doesn't work, we're happy.
Yeah, he's gonna have that. You're gonna open ESPN app and you're gonna see Cam Thomas has scored 40 points. You can see that. What's the over under on 40-point games for him? I'd say I don't even know the actual money line right now, but like I would say it's at least 5 games. I'd slam the over on that. I think
Yeah,
he's
and
having more than
you
five
could see
40
him
point nights this
you could
season.
see him taking 8, 9 threes a game as well. It's like crazy numbers like that. Like that wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility with the situation he's in, with the level of scorer that I think, maybe I won't say I believe he is, but I think he believes
Yeah.
he is.
He's the tank commander that he's the Jordan Poole that we needed.
Hmm.
He's going to be the Jordan Poole we needed. We'll say
Totally agree on
that.
that. Yeah, that's actually a brilliant comparison. I love that.
So coming out of the top 100, I think that's when we kind of get to sleepers. And this is, like I said, when people aren't really paying attention, you're just trying to fill out your roster. You're not really thinking about, maybe the best possible value you can get. But this is kind of the fun part of the draft where maybe you get a guy that he's going to be a valuable part of your rotation and be a reason that this is where I think you win your fantasy league, is if you can scoop up a couple of guys out of the top 100 who actually vastly outplay their stock and are really a big part of your team. And I'll send it to you. Who is your favorite sleeper?
This is where I kind of look to the rookies, and I look
Mm,
at Zach Edey and I look at Donovan Clingan.
okay.
They are going to be efficient. They're going to get rebounds and they're going to get blocks. Yeah, we're probably not going to see that much scoring out of them. Yeah, we're not going to see them shooting a lot of threes. Yeah, maybe they're not going to be totally nailing it from the free throw line. Although Zach Edey, for sure, he'll get to the free throw line a lot. But in terms of the value you can get, in terms of the fact that they're almost definitely be starters, and I think rebounds and blocks are no brainers with them, and field goal percentage for sure is a no brainer with them. So I think the level of competence you can get, just even those specific categories for where you're getting them in the draft, I think they can be absolutely huge for your team.
I Okay, Edie, let's start with Edie. Absolutely. I mean, Edie's ranked 118th on Yahoo. You're getting a rookie, and I think this is always the thing you're afraid of is, do I really want to invest in a rookie? Jalen Duren was great. Mark Williams, until he got hurt, great rookies, and then you get Derek Lively, another guy who's great. So the track record of having rookie centers has been pretty decent as a recent memory.
Like the safest position
Zach
to
Edey, the
draft a
only
rookie.
question you have. Yes, and it's tough to rely on that because you don't know what the minute's going to look like. You don't know what the health is going to look like. Rookies infamously get injured. Rookies infamously hit a wall, and they're a guy that sometimes their production just falls off right when you need him during the playoffs. But if you're going to get a rookie, you're going to get Zach Edey because, I mean, who else is going to get starter minutes? And I think his block potential in the NBA is going to be way higher than it was in college, where he was asked more to be conservative, not foul a lot, and mostly box out. Like, he's going to have his fair share of blocks this season. I would not be shocked if Zach Edey is top 10. I would not be shocked if he's top 5 in blocks. I mean, this guy's massive. And if this all just comes down to if he's healthy, because he's going to get the minutes and he's going to be top 5 in field goal percentage. That is absolutely given. And rebounding as well depends on what kind of role he fills at. If he's a Steven Adams role, maybe he's not getting as many rebounds as we think. But just in terms of what you're getting from rookie at like 118, I think he's going to far outplay that.
Yeah.
Clingan. I have questions about Aiden. You always have questions about Aiden.
They're trying to
But
trade him. They're trying to trade him. They're trying to trade
we'll
him.
see. I don't know who they're going to get him traded to. I don't know where Jeremy Grant's going to be. We don't know where half this Portland Trail Blazers squad is going to be. And I think I'm still not sold on Scoot Henderson as of right now. I'm sold on him in the future. I'm just not sold on the playmaking that Donovan Clingan will have around him for him to be good right now. I think Clingan is a guy that I watch on the waivers. I'm not sure I'm drafting him.
Yeah, I get that. Like, obviously the biggest worry there is obviously they're super stacked at the center position. That's one area that's for sure. But with Portland, I like to believe that he's going to get the most minutes, but it'll be
Yeah.
easy for him to be pulled from the rotation to get less minutes. That's definitely an issue with him.
I think it's more likely that DeAndre Ayton at some point in the season gets benched for Donovan Clingan than it
Mm,
is that DeAndre Ayton gets traded. So I don't think anyone wants any part of that.
yeah.
The average center paid the way he is. Um, Sticking with bigs at 110, ranked 110th, we have Naz Reid. Now let's be honest here. I can't just use these stats and say he averaged 17.3 points, 6.5 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and almost 3 3-pointers made on 48% from the field when Cat was off the floor. I can't just use that because Julius Randle's going to be there. But I know that his stats are going to get way better. And I know that the Timberwolves have actively talked about him filling in that role. So maybe he doesn't fully reach that apex. But I think that he's going to definitely outplay it. He's going to get the minutes and he's going to have the opportunity. And you're going to have a big that's able to hit the three. 110, I think he's outplaying that for sure.
Yes, I agree, but it's just it's a bit of a weird one. But I think I agree with you there.
I think when you're like drafting these later rounds, it's like what is a known quantity, and what is the potential for it to be better? I think the known quantity of Nasrid I already like. I already get a big who's gonna get me rebounding, and he's gonna get me 3-pointers. I mean, that's already hard enough to get. But to think about how much better he can get if he gets more minutes than we expect, if you don't know where the Julius Randle thing's gonna go, I think it's gonna be decent. But I think Nasrid is gonna still have a big cut of the pie for this team, the way that they're talking about it. Um, but another guy who's right there though, and I think I would pick over him. I think this is either my favorite or my second favorite sleeper. I'll just go with my second here because Jalen Green is ranked 109. And let me ask this. Is he the 28 point per game scorer we saw in February? Probably not, right? I think we both agree that that's a little bit much. It's a little bit much. That was just a 15 game sample size. It was still pretty impressive, and we'll just ignore the fact that he averaged 15 points per game for the last 8 games of the season. That didn't happen. It's fine. And I would say, as a Bulls fan, I'd be cautious about February's looking at Lauri Markkanen and his crazy February he had in his sophomore year, but then that eventually panned out. Kobe White's February, and it looks like it's about to pan out. I don't know. But man, if Jalen Green is going to take off, I think a lot of people feel like it's now or never for Jalen Green. If he's going to do what he did in February or anything close to it, is he not a top 60 player? Not a out of the top 100 player?
It's just so hard with Houston Rockets, guys. They have
It is.
so many
It is.
players. And
This is why you take the swing out of the top 100. I'm
yeah,
swinging
yeah.
at 110. If he's in 120, man, I'm swinging there
Yeah, if
absolutely.
you're getting him at the rank that he's at right now, I think he's worth the swing. But again, like I said, it's just so tough for Houston Rockets. Like even like everyone's tipping Reed Shepherd to be Rookie of the Year. They've got Cam
He's not getting
Whitmore,
the
Amen
minutes. Yeah.
Thompson. They've got literally like 25 different players that could be playing for them this year. So tough to believe in any of the Houston Rockets really taking and playing beyond their level. But yeah, in terms of his rank and where he potentially could get to, he's definitely worth the swing at that mark.
Yeah. You got anybody else?
Nah, those are mine. Those are like when I looked at like the outside, like the past 100 and that, that was where I kind of chimed in with my rookie guys there.
Okay, I got a crazy one. Uh, I got a quick one and a crazy one. I'll give you the crazy one first. Uh, how many players do you think averaged over 10 assists for the season last year?
Uh, I feel like it was only Halliburton. That crazy?
It's only Halliburton.
Yeah.
And we didn't have Harden. It was the usual company the year before would have been Harden, Halliburton, Jokic was almost there, and I'm forgetting another
Doncic
name,
was
but
almost there too.
Doncic was almost there. But having a guy who's averaging 10 assists or almost 10, it's tough. Like that number when you're like assessing a team after you drafted or in the middle of the season, you're like, I'm not getting enough. It's tough to get those assist guys, and the value of a guy who's going to consistently give you almost 10 assists a night, you see pretty much most of those guys going in the top 5, 6 rounds, at least pretty much usually in the top three rounds. Chris Paul is ranked 103 right now. And we've seen a couple highlights. They're just highlights. That's why I didn't include it with Premonition or preseason because it's too soon. Maybe I should have. But if Chris Paul, with his vegan diet, and his ageless body that he seems to be working with. I think the change for him from the Warriors to the Spurs is opportunity. He gets opportunity. He gets to be the engine of this team. He gets to be the conductor, rather, of the engine that is Wembanyama. Unless you're going to get some crazy showing from Stephon Castle, unless you're going to get a huge season from the lesser Jones brother, he is the only real playmaker for this team that wants to compete, and he's going to play those minutes. If Chris Paul is putting together a 15-9 season, nay, a 15-10 season, if Chris Paul is a 15-point per game scorer, 10 assist player, if he's still hitting that three, is he not a top 60 player?
That one is so tough. That is a great call out. That is a tough one. Ah, man, I don't know. It's just that idea that he might still only play like 25 minutes a game and he's going to be able to get those sort of numbers up in that amount of time. I think the assist numbers are what could definitely be there. I could see the scoring taking a hit. I could see him like almost averaging more assists than points. That I think that wouldn't be a crazy thing to think of with him. But ooh, I think he could outplay his rank, but I'm thinking more 75, 80 mark than top 60.
Fair. That's fair. That's conservative. I think the best case scenario is obviously top, but um, if I think for teams that if you're looking at your roster and you're like, I got a lot of scores, I got a lot of rebounding, I got some defense, I don't have enough assists. You're not going to find a guy outside of the top 30, top 40 who are going to arguably give you like 8 assists per game. Chris Paul is going to be, I think that's a floor. I think Chris Paul averages 8.5 assists per game this season easily.
Where is Tyus Jones ranked?
A tie, that was an interesting thing too, and I wanted to include that he's ranked 113. I don't, but my thing with Tyus Jones though is how much I don't know how much Budenholzer is going to use him as a pure point guard. I don't have, there's not a lot of experience with Budenholzer teams as having pure point guards. I think a
Yeah.
lot of this still will run through Booker. A lot of this will still run through Beal and Durant, and Tyus Jones will get the sets, but I don't think he's going to be like a pure pick and roll player the way that Chris Paul is. I'm not sure, and I'm still picking Tyus Jones. I think that's a great if you need to fill in your point guard spot, like that is a great pick.
I
But
feel like I would pick Tyus Jones over Chris Paul, but your point does stand in terms of actually playing as that the same level of like the same style of playmaker he has been for his whole career. That might not be the same, even though that's the exact thing that everyone in the world has been crying out for the Phoenix Suns that they needed. But I think your point does stand that probably is true that he might not be as natural as a point guard as a Chris Paul.
yeah, because I mean they're not going to spam uh, Nurkic, Tyus Jones pick and rolls the way that they are going to with Chris Paul and Wembanyama.
Yeah,
And
that's
you're,
fair.
you're gonna have you're gonna have way more looks like that. And obviously, Chris Paul's not gonna run every single play. He's not gonna be the finisher on every single play. But I think he's gonna get more opportunities. And I got it, Tyus Jones. But fair, I mean, fair call out. I thought about it as well. But I think I have more questions about how Budenholzer and the Suns are gonna use Tyus Jones in that system than I do with Chris Paul and what they're definitely gonna do there in San Antonio.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Who's your last guy then?
My last guy, and this is probably not going to pan out. But in terms of the lowest ranked person who catches my eye when I look through these rankings, who really catches my eye, at 176 in Yahoo rankings sits our boy Benny Mathurin.
Oh yeah.
Ben is sitting there at 176, pretty much like your I think final draft. You should probably know final pick type of vibes. That is the cheapest possible flyer on a guy who I think is the second, and I am just really just distilling this image. There's so much more to it, but I think he's potentially the second best player on a team that was just in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I agree. I've always been a believer in Benedict Mathurin. I usually have him in my fantasy team. It hurt me last year when he got injured. He puts up scoring numbers. He is a very, very capable scorer. If you are getting him in the second last or last round, you have got yourself a steal right there. He can put up very, very good scoring numbers. He can put up pretty. I think we're going to see him get more efficient. Obviously, I've been calling that out for like the last 2 years. We haven't really seen it because he's been getting injured a lot more. So if he is healthy this year and you're getting him in the second last round or the last round, you've done well there.
Yeah, we've seen the preseason. He has green light, and it seems like the emphasis is they need more perimeter shooting. You know, like Nemhard and the rest. I mean, they're meant to be in the starting lineup. I don't think that he's going to supplant anyone in the starting lineup, but I think he's going to get a huge amount of minutes off the bench, and I think he's going to shoot anytime he has the opportunity to because they need that. They haven't had it since Buddy Hield, and they need him to step up and be their elite perimeter shooter. And I think that Halliburton's their best shooter right now. I think that Ben Mathurin's probably their second best shooter. Maybe I should shy away from the second best, but I still think Siakam is still
Yeah.
in his prime. I think he's still going to be the second best player. But in terms of perimeter scorer, in terms of who's going to be getting the shots, I think Nemhard's going to be definitely up there. And he's a guy that is going to be frustrating because he's going to be inefficient at times and not maybe put up the points. But like you said, he's been injured. He's not had like a really clean run at getting any momentum throughout a season. And if he gets that this season, he is a guy that you're not getting anyone else that late. I think he's going to have the opportunity to really like shine this season.
Like you can get a guy that late that could technically you could build up the idea in your head that he could be the lead scorer on the Indiana Pacers. You could do that to yourself and it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world
No.
for a guy that you're getting that late. Like that's pretty insane.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Jordan Clarkson are ranked above him. I'm taking him over a guy like Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a given. But let's wrap it up here. Let's take a little quick recap. If you got the number one pick, it's pretty much got to be Jokic or Wemby. You got a top six pick. You're looking at guys you want to spend 50 plus on in an auction draft. Jokic, Doncic, Wemby, Giannis, SGA, Tatum. Best value, guys. We're looking at Giannis. Giannis is ranked number 7. You can get him anywhere outside of like the top 4. Absolute steal. Slam that. He is going to put up the numbers for you. Who's going to be the guys to avoid? Avoid Embiid. Top 6. Do not take Embiid with a top 6 pick. Also, I'm going to say avoid Halliburton as a first round pick, but that's just because he's hurt me before, so maybe I'm being a little bit biased there. Best value in the second round. Don't be afraid to reach on Scotty Barnes. He could be a guy that can really lead your team to a lot of wins. And more importantly, believe in the lesser guys. Believe in your Chris Pauls. Believe in your Zach Edey's. There is value out there and maybe even a Michael Porter Jr. to really tie your whole team together. But there is value out there and don't believe the rankings. Do your own research and find out the best guys to pick because the rankings, they're not always right.
Nope. Change every year for a reason.
Damn right. But that's going to wrap up today's episode. Best of luck to everybody with their drafts. Best of luck to you, Chris, and to me on our drafts. Hopefully it goes a little bit better than it did last year. I'm excited with my 2 keepers, so I'm in a better position financially going into this draft, which is obviously very helpful. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Chris, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all so much for listening. Remember, we are everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.